Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alana and today you'll be joining me while I discuss the best books of 2021 to me. These are my top picks of the year of the books that I did read during the year. They necessarily don't have to be new release, it's just whatever I have read that I have absolutely loved. So here we go. Read in January, we have Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a middle grade first book in a series and it is incredible. So in Amari and the Night Brothers, we follow Amari, who is missing her brother who has mysteriously disappeared, and what she doesn't realize is that he was actually part of this magical society. And one day a suitcase arrives at her apartment door, and when she opens it she finds this out and then must travel to the society to try and work out what happened to her brother, but also train herself. I love this one so much, and I love to recommend this one at work for people who enjoyed Nevermore or that Wizard series book, because this is just so incredibly good. Just to give you a general feel of it as well, it's a mix between Men in Black and Nevermore. You do have a school type setting and training. We also see an amazing best friend side character and intrigue, and just stuff happens in this. The plot of this is great, and the twist slash revelation towards the end of the first book, also great. I am very hyped for the second book to be released. Also read in January was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This is book number 2 in the Skyward series. What is this series called? I don't know what it's called, but this is book number 2, and this is the book where the world opens up even further. So book number 1, which is called Skyward, is very much set on this planet where we follow our main protagonist Spencer, who is spiky and a little bit annoying, but she grows so much and comes into herself and into her character very well. And she essentially wants to be a pilot because her father was, but unfortunately he was labelled as a coward, which is something that she does not agree with whatsoever. So she wants to prove everybody wrong, follow in his footsteps, and help save her planet from the alien invasion that is always threatening them from above. So in this first book, very much set on her planet and everything that is going on there. There's also an AI character and a alien slug as well, who I love. But yes, in the second book, in Starsight, we go beyond the world, and I won't say anything further than that, but I loved where this went. And I'm very excited for Cytonic, which has just been released, which I need to get a copy of, but I'm fussy and I want it in the same size, so I will wait. Also, if it was not clear, this is sci-fi. I would put this in adult, even though the main character sometimes is a bit YA, but she grows a lot in the first book, so adult. Next up, a February pick, and that is The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This is a teen crime novel in which we have a teenage girl who walks into a bank with her ex-boyfriend and her new girlfriend. Things are kind of awkward because they are all friends, and they're trying to deposit some money that they raise for charity, and then the bank starts to get robbed. What the robbers don't know though is that Nora, our main character, was actually raised by a con woman, and she has been many other personas before. So now she has to use her skill set to try and get her friends, and the other hostages out of the situation safely. And in doing so, we get some of her skill set revealed to us. This is told both in present time and also flashing back to the girls that she has been. And I really love this. It was also fast paced. There is bi-representation in this. There is endo-rep in this as well. There is content warnings though for child abuse and everything that follows along with that, so just be aware going into it. But yes, a very quick, easy read, and if you loved One of Us is Lying, try this one as well. But definitely upper teen. This is also a standalone. Also read in February, we have The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is a standalone historical fiction look into Alaska in the 1970s or 80s, I think. It's adult fiction type. I love this so very much. It made me cry in multiple places. I listened to this one via audiobook, but I do want to grab a physical copy so I can reread it and experience it all over again. Essentially what happens is, just to confirm, set in 1974 in Alaska, we follow our main character Lenny, who is 13 when this first starts off, and then she ages up as she grows up in this wild landscape, which she is forced to move to with her parents Cora and Ernst, as they kind of have always moved around a lot, and her father suffers from PTSD and things that he witnessed during the Vietnam War. He came back changed and dealing with a lot of that. So when he says, let's go and have a fresh start and this will make things better, Cora, Lenny's mother, always agrees. And there's a lot of turmoil within this family dynamic, as you could already tell. And you pair that with this wild landscape of Alaska, which is beautiful but deadly, and of course a lot of stuff is going to go down. So this got heavy in places, but I loved it so much. I love hard-hitting fiction, and this did that so very well. And like I said, we follow the main character Lenny as she ages up and grows up within the community that they do move to, and it's her making connections within this town and the different skills that they have to learn, which they've never had to use before, having lived in lower parts of America. And wow, just wow. There's a reason why this is on all the best-selling lists and top books and all of that. It was incredible. I loved it so very much. From March, we have Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This is a standalone contemporary romance, and in this one we follow Ruth, who is very comfortable in her setting. She is a manager or assistant manager in a retirement community, and she's fine doing her own thing. She's a 20-something-year-old going on 60, 70 is how they kind of pitch it, because she does her job, she lives on site as well, she has her comforts, and that's her. Until she meets Teddy, who is actually the owner's son, and then they have to work together, and he kind of shakes her world up a little bit. And I love this one so much because it was so comforting. This was definitely a hug in a book, and I adored these characters thoroughly. There was no miscommunication trope, which is something that I struggle with when I do pick up a contemporary romance. It was more wholesome and focusing on our main characters and what they kind of had to go through to get shaken up a little bit. Very light, very easy read, one that I would recommend if you're just looking for a holiday read, because that's when I read it, when I went on holidays in March. Great. Next up we have Perfect on Paper, which is a standalone teen fiction. I read this in April and I absolutely adored it. This is by Sophie Gonzalez, who is a favorite author of mine, and in this one we follow Darcy, who runs a locker that gives advice to hopeless romantics at her school, all done anonymously, until one day our other main character, Broham, is finishing swimming practice and catches Darcy unlocking the locker, and her secret is revealed to only him. He promises not to tell if she can help him get back with his ex-girlfriend, and everything ensues from there. I love this one because it encapsulated the teen feeling of what the hell are we doing? I love this one so very, very much. Our main character is also bi, and a discussion comes up in this one of when you enter a straight looking relationship, this can kind of erase some of your bi identity and how you were still valid. Loved it. Amazing. Broham is also from Australia, which our author is also Australian, but she has so far written American set contemporaries. I think, could be wrong, but the two that I've read have been set in America. But it was so cool to see her portray some of her Australianisms through this character, and there were some scenes that had me laughing out loud because the ridiculousness of it is actually real life here in Australia. So it was great. Next up is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is a teen fiction prequel to The Hate You Give, and I devoured this one in May. I love the different voice that we got in this one because this is from Star's father's point of view, and you can tell that he hasn't had the education that Star has, but he has still led a very valid life. So in this one we do get Maverick's point of view, as he is the son of a drug lord and where he wants to take his life, and this division between what is easy and what is right, and especially when he becomes a dad very, very young. So this book is doing a lot of great stuff, opening a lot of great conversations, and for me personally showing another side of life as well, which I love books that do that. And yeah, just Amazing conversations in this one. Angie Thomas is a phenomenal writer, and just this different voice that she brings forward in Maverick is great. I love this so much. I can't wait to read more from her. Another May favourite is The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. This is adult crime thriller, and this is also a standalone. So a few standalones on this list this year, which I'm not mad about at all. This one is set in the UK, and we follow Tallulah, who is a young mum, and Kim, who is her mum, and essentially what happens is one day Kim wakes up and Tallulah, who always comes home to her son, has disappeared, and this is very odd. So we follow a couple of different point of views, and one of them being Kim as she's trying to unravel what happened to her daughter, and I loved where this one went. Very bingeable, easy to read thriller, but I loved the twist at the end and the ending and the wrap up of this as well. Lisa Jewell is an author that I have recently discovered over the last year or so, and I smash read so many of her books via audiobook, and this one I actually got to physically read, and just as good. She's just really, really great for thrilling reads, and she also loves to delve into family dynamics a lot, and this is one of my favourite books by her. Next up, a July favourite, we have The Nowhere Child by Christian White. This is a dual narrative one where we follow today's timeline and the past timeline, and essentially what happens is someone approaches a woman called Kim, who is one of our main characters, in her home in Australia, and he says, "I'm your brother from America. I think that you are the missing girl, Sammy Went." From there the story explodes, and we follow Kim as she goes to America to try and discover some answers, and as she delves deeper into the past of Sammy Went, an immediate danger starts to arise. Little cameo from Evie. And I love how the two storylines start to pull together, and the mystery of Sammy Went and who she was, and all of that. Really, really good, and a great mystery plot, and I'm intentionally being vague because I don't want to spoil anything, because it was just great to go into this knowing nothing. Next up is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is also a July pick. This is teen verse, and we follow two different girls, one from America and one from the Dominican Republic, and we find out that they are actually half sisters who didn't know about each other. That is until the tragedy of their father's plane going down and them realizing who they are to each other. And yes, this is a verse novel. I loved how this was told. I loved how we flicked between perspectives of the two different girls and them coming to terms with their identity and who their father was, and if that impacts their picture of him in their memories. I cried when I read this. I don't know what else to say. Pick it up if you haven't already. Next up, we have the very hyped Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This I read early in August. I was lucky enough to have an arc of it, and then I went out and bought the hardcover, and this is book one in a new adult fantasy. In this one, essentially the world has gone to shit because as some event has unfolded, the sun has been clouded, which means that vampires can now walk throughout the day. Are you right? And they are no longer chained by the sunlight, so scary stuff happens. We follow Gabriel, who is a disheartened silver saint, so used to be part of this holy order to protect people, and is now very sarcastic and pessimistic. And he comes in contact with a group of people that change the course of where he was heading. This is also told through interview style format, so we jump back and forth a lot in the timeline. Present day is Gabe being captured by a vampire, and then we flick back as this vampire wants to chronicle his life. So we do have illustrations in this as well from the wonderful illustrator known online as Monoline Art or Bon Orthwick. And yes, this is very sarcastic. This is very much Jay Kristoff's marketing encapsulated within a novel, so it's dark, it's brooding, it's edgy, it plays around with form a lot, but I did enjoy it. I also did a reading vlog for that, so I'll leave that linked up above for you and down below. Then we have Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the last trilogy of the Realm of the Elderlings, so don't start here. If you want to start a Robin Hobb book, start with Assassin's Apprentice, because this is like the 4th or 5th trilogy insertion in the scheme of things. So I won't go into what this book is about for spoilers, but essentially in this one we follow an old favourite main character as they have been in retirement for quite some time, and then they are pulled out of that easy living situation and thrust back into their old life. This book also made me cry. I'm sensing a theme here. The books that make me cry end up on my top picks of the year. This B on the cover also means something, so very vague, non-spoilery. I love Robin Hobb's writing so very, very much, and I only have one book left to go, and then I have finished the Realm of the Elderling series, and I don't know how I feel about that, so I'm purposely putting off that last book. But it was great to be back in the world and back with these characters. This is also adult high fantasy, so medieval, powers, magic, dragons, all that good stuff. Then we have a thriller that I consumed in October, When No One Is Watching, by Alyssa Cole. This is set in America and is a commentary on what happens when black neighborhoods are bought out by white people and developed and made better, even though that didn't need to happen. This book made me mad in all the right places. It's also took things to an extreme level, but I liked the direction that the book went with this. It didn't slow down and stay in a reasonable lane. It went ham for its point, and I loved it. Very much a thriller that is a social commentary. We follow two main characters, Theo, who is a white male, and Sydney, who is a black woman, and their different point of views mashed together chapter after chapter was really interesting to read through. I liked the comparison and the howdy-doody element of this as well, and it was just great. I feel like after all of these, I'm saying they were great. Obviously, they were great to me because they're on this favorites list. Anyway, the third to last book on this list is Anything But Fine by Tobias Madden. I got to read an early copy of this and I fell in love with it with a lot of other people in the country at the moment. It's great, you should read it. This is a teen fiction standalone where we follow Luca, who has dreams of joining the Australian Ballet Company, but then an injury erases that future for him, and it's him trying to scrabble and reform his idea of what he will do with his life. I love the romance element of this as well, as we have Luca, who is openly gay and then falls for a straight character, and it's that play between will they, won't they, and I liked how it was done. It reminded me a little bit of Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez, so if you've enjoyed that one, then definitely pick up Anything But Fine, because I love them both so much. Second to last book on this list is The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. This is the fourth book in the Bone Season series, and this is dystopian fantasy, I think is the best way to describe it, because we're set in the future in like 2050 something or other, but the world building gives you like ye old London type vibes. Paige gets brutalized in this one as well as in the last ones. Her character growth is great, but yes, she does go through a lot. I love the play between her and Warden in this as well. I loved where the story went as well, because the world stage opens up a whole heap more within this one. We got to see some great new characters as well, high stakes, lots of stuff happening. Very great to be back in this world again, and I am very pumped for the next installment when that does get released. But yes, if you haven't heard of the first book, which is The Bone Season, this is clairvoyance, London, different factions, people hunting down the abnormal people because they can use their mind abilities, and there's a big division in this world, and it's a revolution and an uprising type series. I also read that book in October and it was a great time. I think that was in a vlog in Tome Topple vlog, so I'll leave that up above and down below for you too. And finally, you can't see because Evie is right here wanting tickles, so I will have to wrap this up. We have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I know that this one doesn't technically get released till next March, but I was lucky enough to get an early copy of this and I loved it. V.E. Schwab, back in her element, perfect. This is a standalone soft fantasy mystery type book where we follow our main character Olivia, who lives in a boarding home for girls, until one day she receives a mysterious letter calling her home to Gallant, where her mother was from. This has portal magic in it, this has ghosts and ghouls, and Victoria Schwab's fascination with death and the line between the living and the dead, and I love this one so much. I found one of the characters to be kind of predictable in their arc, but I loved how it ended, and I loved Olivia as a main character as well, because she was very stubborn and she knew what she wanted, and rightly so as well. I like characters like this who push back against, you know, the proper girl and who we should be and whatnot, and just instead be ballsy and bold. Olivia is also mute in this one too, and we have some beautiful illustrations throughout the book as well to portray some scenes. We have sign language representation in this too, and I just love that inclusion, and I loved when you find out how the illustrations fit in with the book as well. It's not just V.E. Schwab going, I want a book with illustrations, so just here's some visual elements to the story. It pulls in to the storyline and means something too. So I love that. I read that in December. I finished that in December. So there you have it. Those were my top 16 books of 2021. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, or if you were thinking of picking up any of them, or alternatively what one of your favorite books of the year was. Thank you so much for watching and for sticking around and for supporting my channel during this last half of the year when I did rediscover it. It's been a great hobby to have again and to be able to just spit books. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing okay out there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!